Welcome back to Pokemon Platinum. We're continuing with the plot after we beat Cyrus. We're going to be climbing up the mountain to get to the legendary stuff. Yay.
Did you already beat these? Oh, wait, no, you have to go back into Mount Coronet.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Mount Coronet is still, like, I mean, I think I've bitched about it before, but the thing that bothers me is that it's not really all a one dungeon. It's a dungeon split up into, like, 2 or 3 different parts that you can't really get between. So, like, if you enter the dungeon from the left side, you can only really explore a certain area. You can't really get to the dungeon that you explore from other sides, meaning that it just makes it super inconvenient to find what you need to find and get to different places.
Protein.
So it's just...
I've been waiting for this.
I can't give it to Flareon. Its EVs are maxed out.
You see, I never use the EV items in Pokemon. They're worth like 4,900 money, which is a lot. So,
yeah, but I don't need the money either, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least, you generally start finding them before you'll find, like, nuggets and stuff. So, like, you know, this is before the point where you have practically infinite potions and revives and stuff like that.
Also, the thing is, this is a Gen 4 game. We're going on to Gen 8 in a couple months, so I have no reason to use anything in this file.
Yeah, that's also true.
Implying you'd go back to Platinum after recording it.
You know...
I know, it's a perfectly fine game, but still.
Oh, I mean, I don't ever see myself going back to it, but you see, I wish that it were easier to get stuff from these old games into the new ones. And I mean, granted, it's just not going to be because of technology, but I was actually just thinking about it and how there's going to be a time relatively soon, and by that I mean within 5-10 years, where anything before Gen... like 7 or 8 is just going to be inaccessible because they're going to shut down the Pokemon Bank, and because they announced a new service instead, the Pokemon Home. I don't know why they made it a new service instead of just expanding the functionality of the existing bank, but whatever. And
probably because they had to make it future-proof for phones and consoles.
Yeah,
and
they
that.
probably had to completely
but you know, they
end.
could rework it and then transfer the data over. Because like, redundant data backups work that way.
Yeah. As we've discussed earlier in the playthrough, Game Freak is not good about this sort of thing.
Yeah, they suck at technology, which makes it very perplexing that they succeeded for so long as game developers.
Yeah, but so you need, for anything up to Gen 5, you can get into Gen 6 or 7 by using like the Poke Transfer tool, which takes the Pokemon from a Gen 5 cart and puts it onto the Pokemon Bank server. But since Pokemon Bank, you know, it'll eventually get shut down, you know, 5-10 years from now. Yeah. Whenever they decide Pokemon Home's good enough and they don't need Pokemon Bank anymore. So there will come a point where anything, you know, Gen 7 down will just not be able to be transferred up into the modern games anymore. It just won't be possible. Which, I mean, kind of makes me a little sad. You know, I like having the idea of
the inevitable march.
Okay, I'm going to confess something slightly embarrassing. I actually like Looker. something about his style of talking amuses me.
That's fair. A lot of people do like him. I don't care.
It's slightly implied through the course of a number of games that, regardless of what region he's in, he's foreign, so he always speaks a little weird.
Yeah.
I wish that they were able to convey that message a little bit better. Because they do some of that, like in Unova, the Gen 5 games. When you go to the back half of the region in post-game, there are just people randomly speaking French there. And it's just like, okay, they must be tourists.
They were probably speaking English in the Japanese version.
You know what? Probably, yeah.
That's an amusing thing they did in Persona 3, where... because she was so well-educated, Mitsuru, the rich girl, would occasionally speak English, but they couldn't translate that directly in the English version, so they changed it to French. And that's why Mitsuru speaks French in Persona 3 and all the spin-offs, because she was originally a Japanese speaker who spoke English. It's not very impressive when an English speaker reveals that they can also speak English.
I don't know. Based on the current society, you could be, you know, something to be a marvel at.
I guess it would also work a little bit better if the regions actually felt big enough to be countries instead of like maybe
A
like
neighborhood.
a neighbor. Yeah, basically. Which they did get a little bit better about with Gen, not kinda Gen 5, a little bit. At
Gen
least
5
the
has
cities.
some large-looking cityscapes that present an illusion of things like being expansive, but there's no getting around the fact that you can basically lap around the entire region in an afternoon stroll and not even burn that many calories on your phone's calorie app.
Yeah, pretty. That's basically the thing. But then again, also making a game big enough to feel like an entire country would also be way too big.
Yeah.
Because I think, oh god,
I think it was always implied that it was just, a scale of things.
yeah, which is why in the anime, getting between Celadon and Saffron takes
Took
several.
like 20 episodes.
Yeah, as opposed to.
Here's the thing though, like the regions in the first two Pokemon games, Kanto and Johto, weren't meant to be the size of countries. They were meant to be the size of regions within a country. So we've kind of slid off the scale we were originally using, and it's made the illusion flimsier than it once was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like a Pokemon game should be too big at the same time because I feel like the games are about, the main stories are about as long as they should be right about now, where it's just like, okay, 20 to 30 hours-ish, and you're done. And that's a good length for that because any longer and it starts to either become a little bit too grindy or too repetitive.
Yeah.
They're a good length the way they are. But I don't know. The scale of the Pokemon world, I guess it's just nothing beats your imagination when you're a kid, I guess, where, you
Yeah.
imagine the world being much more expansive than it is.
Well, we also
And-
had, at that time, the Pokemon anime was exploding alongside the game, so our imaginations were aided quite a bit by having these really realistic portrayals of the Pokemon world in the anime.
Yeah, where there's like an extra city every 2 episodes so that they can have NPCs.
Well, yeah, but like Pallet Town in the anime is freaking
An actual town.
It's freaking enormous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And-
like
It's not your house, Gary's house, and Oak's Lap.
Well, I think there are that few houses, but it's just like there's a lot of space between them, so it feels
well,
like a pastoral area.
Professor Oak's laboratory is this big, like, really intricate building with a big ass field behind it where his Pokemon graze and all that. And it's implied that there's more buildings than just the buildings you see by the amount of space that's shown. Whereas Pallet Town in the game is 3 buildings all crunched together between some trees. With all the trees blocking any kind of access to any other areas where buildings might be. And then you surf on a Pokemon for 5 feet and you land on an island town at the south of the map. That's the extent of it.
Man, wow, Cinnabar Island's really, really, really close to Pallet Town.
Cinnabar Island in the anime was this massive fucking volcano island, and in the game, it's a square with a few houses on it.
It's just like, oh man, the entire town got destroyed by the volcano.
The
There was a
mansion-
volcano?
The mansion on Cinnabar is bigger on the inside than the entire island is when you're outside.
Every RPG does that.
No, I mean, like, you could fill the mansion with, like, 5 Cinnabar islands on both floors, I think. It's pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, there's just a level of abstraction
Yeah.
that you can accept with a Game Boy game that chips away as you get
Yeah.
higher up in technology.
The more presentation finesse is on display, the harder it is to accept. I think Sun and Moon did a pretty good job of balancing it. Of course, it also helps that what they were working with was Hawaii, so it being a bunch of small islands kind of made sense.
Yeah, they were able to, make it feel like that's actually one thing I do appreciate about Sun and Moon is that each island did feel like, a full area. Like, okay, this does feel like a lived-in community.
Doesn't really
It's
have
just-
that problem that Gen 3 had where people are complaining about too much water.
I mean, you still have to do the surfing minigame in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which I don't like, but
Ugh.
you only have to. I mean, you only have to do it once each time. I think you only have to do it once total, actually, and you don't have to be good at it. You can just
No,
like
you just
bumble.
yeah, you don't have to do anything. You could just if you want to just sit there and have the game play itself for the minute or two you're doing it to get to the next island, you can totally do that.
Yeah, I don't even think the rewards are that good for the Mantine Surf.
No, you get BP to get TMs and move tutor stuff.
Okay, that's well, I mean that's fine, but I think you can get the BP by doing other things anyway. So
You can. It's just the surfing is the most efficient way to do so if you're good at it.
oh wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Because you can get a good amount of BP for like 2 minutes of gameplay,
okay, that's fair.
rather than trying to get your team ready and doing the whatever battle trees or whatever.
Okay, that
like
makes sense.
I think you can earn more in the battle tree if you're good at it, but that's however many minutes to hours it takes to get through the tree and all that.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when you're grinding, do the surfing thing, and then when you're looking for a bit of variety, earn a bit more BP by doing a battle tree.
Yeah.
Or you could do the surfing to get the TMs you need in order to get your team to be good enough for the battle tree.
Man,
Is also an
Yeah.
option.
okay, lady, you don't need to do the big dramatic animation to climb these rocks. There's a very, very clearly a ladder of very easy hand grips on this wall. Just pretend it's one of those rock climbing parks and climb.
I also like that you have to jump on your Pokemon, go down, and then jump off, and then jump back on it in order to climb up the next one. Did any of you guys ever unlock the Surfing Pikachu minigame in Yellow?
I did.
Don't you to do that? Don't you have to like transfer the one from Stadium over to Yellow? Is it?
Yep.
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 Okay. I never did that because by the time I got the connector thingy for the N64, Stadium 2 was already out, and I wasn't playing Yellow anymore.
I never had that, but I think I unlocked it with a Game Shark or something.
We had Stadium at the house because that was Pokemon at the time was one of the few games I could get my sisters to play, so they had their own. So it was a way to it was a game that my sisters would play.
So when my first I had Pokemon on Game Boy, but my first console was the N64, and I got it as the combo pack with Pokemon Stadium. So it was at a birthday party where
Stadium 2.
No, Stadium 1.
So I was say if you got it with Stadium 2, you got it at the very end of the N64's life.
Well, I mean, I got it 2000 because.
So at the very end of the N64's life.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah, because Gold and Silver came out 2000 in winter that year. So yeah. But I remember that, I got it, and a whole bunch of my cousins were there because they were at my birthday party, and we were telling my dad we wanted my dad to set it up so that we could play. And so, he had never hooked up anything like a game console before, so, he was reading the
you
instructions.
plug it in, and you put the RCA in the TV.
Yeah,
Done.
I mean, it's not that hard, but, he still insisted on reading the instructions and stuff like that.
Please
So
read the enclosed instruction book.
It was a group of, 8 5 to 12-year-olds, surrounding him and the TV while he's trying to put the thing in, and we were just, glaring at him, roused with excitement to finally watch 3D Pokemon battles, and it's just one of those things I remember from my childhood.
If you want to get really convoluted about that, back in Lewis probably remembers as well, but back in our day, you had to watch our parents fumbling around with an RF switcher for the NES and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the ones. Those are the ones where you have to get
The coaxials, and you have to tie it to the TV, basically.
Ooh, yeah. I've seen videos of I remember the nerd trying to hook up really old stuff, old Ataris and stuff like that, where you have to screw it onto certain parts of the TV in order to send the signal, and it's just
yeah.
oh god, why would anybody want to do this?
It's just how it was. It's just how it was back then.
Older technology was temperamental and often needlessly complicated because there was a lot of proprietary shit too. Standardizing wasn't a thing until recent decades, but that's a large part of why your old timer was reading the instructions for a very simple electronic installation. Because in his day, it wasn't quite so simple. But you couldn't...
Booting up a 3.1 Windows required a lot of typing to get it going.
Yeah, you couldn't just bumblefuck into things back in the day. there was no USB cable that was plug and play and would install your device for you. And if you didn't follow the instructions, you were going to mess something up and then have to pay for some professional to come and undo your fuck up. And yeah.
Or worst case, you would ruin it and you have to buy a new one.
Yeah.
How hard was it to set up like a Genesis or a Super Nintendo?
Depends.
Well, did you use RF switchers or did you use RCA?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can play Genesis and stuff with you know, your composite cables, but most of the ones that I played back in the day used
Coaxial.
Yeah.
I think the Model 1 only had coaxial. I may be wrong.
Oh no, I have.
That's the ugly one. Though,
I have
right?
a Model 1, and it plays fine with composite.
Gotcha.
Composite rather.
Gotcha.
The Model 1 is the one that people don't think about when they see the Genesis, right? Because the Genesis that I most often see is like the smoothish black.
That's
But-
Model 2.
But I still prefer the Model 1 because it has a headphone port.
Yeah.
The only real problem I have with the Model 1 Genesis is the power switch is this sliding switch thing, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize that through frequent use, the switch wears out and starts to become wobbly, and then you have to fiddle with it to turn it on.
That sounds. Oh god.
Yeah.
For something like the power switch, that's not something I want to have to deal with.
Yeah, it's really annoying, and you can probably fix it. You can probably repair it if you know what you're doing, but it's not something I know how to do.
Yeah.
And
No, my Super Nintendo's... I remember we had to use the coaxial for my Super Nintendo when we first got it, but we very quickly got RCAs later. Because we don't have it anymore because it broke down, but we had a very fucking 80s smallish TV where the Super Nintendo was hooked up to, including a 1985 VCR.
Is that the one that had that episode of Power Rangers that you couldn't get back out?
Yes. It was the first VHS. It was the VHS of the first 3 episodes of Power Rangers on it, and it got stuck in there. And this was like the late 90s at the point. And I think I was just watching it out of nostalgia, and we were like, well, I mean, we're not using this thing anyway, so if it decides to pop out at some point, great. If not, and it just sat there for like 8 years.
Did you break the thing open and get that VHS out?
No, not really. The tape was probably shit at that point.
You know what? We still have all of our like Disney VHS things.
Oh we do too. We have all our Disney VHSs in the basement, and I still have my original cut Star Wars VHSs.
Yeah, but I'm wondering how good those things are, because like I mean,
No, if you cut them in like the actual cases, they hold up pretty well.
which Star
Okay.
which Star Wars VHSs do you have?
The unedited ones from like '94.
Do they have like the George Lucas interviews at the start?
Yep.
That's the one I had.
Yeah.
I've been looking for those.